Another day, another dollar, huh?
Yeah, another dollar. Got my banana just in case I don't get the dollar.
Yep. So, what's up?
Well, I guess we're in shakedown cruise number 3 here. I'll let you explain about the generator problem. But we still want to raise the front tires 1 inch probably, and then see what that happens. We can't test it until we get the generator problem resolved. Other than that, looking good.
Good times and good times. Yes, we have bad news and bad news.
Oh, how about the axle? You're still going to try to move that over 1/2 inch?
Yeah.
The rear end?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, starting with the bad news, after the last test drive, I had to pull the car in and out of the garage a couple of times. And then one of the times I went to pull it in and the Dakota Digital started beeping at me like beep, 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 beep. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And it said volts, 17.8 volts. I'm like, that's not good. And the voltmeter was just pegged. I thought that was weird. So I shut it off, started it back up, went right back up again. But the car was in the driveway.
Right.
So I had to get it inside. So I just drove it inside real quick. And by the time I got in, it had settled back down to 14 volts. I thought, okay, whatever. So I charged the battery just in case. Came back a couple days later, battery was dead. I was like, So the alternator fried, I think. So I'll make a separate video for that. But basically, we are sans alternator right now. So we had to send that back to Vintage Air, or not Vintage Air, but Mechman in Tennessee for them to fix it. So can't drive the car. So that's bad news number 1. So bad news number 2, yes, is lots and lots and lots of rubbing from that last test drive. So most severe is this guy right here. It's hitting hard on that inside lip right there. You see, I can barely get my fingers up in there. And so that's when we were driving in the car. Every time we hit a bump, that would rub, and then it would kick the car to the left, which is a little sketchy. So we're going to take a look at the shocks here and see what was going on. But I was just telling Pops, the interesting thing I noticed is this side was lower than the other side. And then I noticed that, so I can barely get my fingers in there. So if I mash this down, I can't get my fingers in there. And if I pull it up, I can get my fingers in there. So I don't know if that shock is sticking, the spring isn't got enough preload on it or something. I'm not sure. So we have to figure that out. So we'll take these two sides apart. And then the other bad news, I guess bad news, bad news, bad news. I don't know if we can see this from here. I'll get this later, but there's a brake fluid leak over here.
Oh yeah.
So that's, I think, why the brakes were a little sketchy when I was driving it. So we're probably out of brake fluid in the front. We never saw anything on the ground, but you'll see the subframe is just all kinds of drips and all the paint's bubbled up, which is generally brake fluid. And then, as Pop said, the other thing, when I was looking at this, the rear end is not centered here. Somewhere along the way that went wrong. So we've got, I forget what this is, but 5/8, I forget, some amount here. I can get my whole hand up in there. And then on this side, it's not. So the rear end's got to go that way. I think 5/16 of an inch. I'll remeasure it. This has a triangulated 4-link in it. So I think we'll jack the car up, let the rear end down, and I think if I take the 2 triangle bars off, I can lengthen this one, shorten this one, and just make sure the pinion angle stays the same. Basically, we can shift it over a little bit. It's not much, so I think it'll be okay, but we'll figure that out. What else? And then, depending on where all that leads us, the other thing I noticed on the wheels, as you can see, this guy comes all the way to the outside of the fender lip, and this one's tucked in. So either I got the wheels too wide or I got the offset wrong. So I'm hoping that doesn't mean I have to get narrower wheels. I might have to, or change the offset, but either way, it's a new wheel. These are custom wheels, so that sucks. These are 18 by 8 with a 4.5-inch backspace, which lots of people say run fine, but they may not have had a lowered car, so that's probably my issue. But we're probably going to end up getting narrower tires here. These are 245s. We'll probably get 225s just to get that little extra help there. And then on the rears, those are 285s, I think. So I might take those to 265s or something, just so they kind of have a similar look. But I can get new tires all the way around for $1,000 or so. These wheels are like $1,400 a piece, I think, now. Whew, those are pricey, so I don't want to replace those, but we'll see. Anyway, so let's start by looking at the front first, because that's easier.
Sounds good to me.
All right. All right, so here we are on the driver's side. You can see all the rubbing that was going on there. And if anybody asks, should this go on the inside or the outside? Pops and I went through this, 3 years ago when we put this car together. This would not fit on the inside of the fender well. We tried and couldn't get it to fit. But even if it did, that's like maybe a 1/16 of an inch difference there. It wouldn't really make any difference, and it would just be rubbing on the inside of the fender well instead. But nothing else is rubbing in here, so just that little spot there. So if we can get the wheels, we talked about with the tires or whatever, and just get it a little bit further inside there, we come up against this edge there, and maybe we'll be okay. But I checked the shocks, they're the same on both sides. I thought maybe I screwed up. So they're set to the same preload right now. We cranked them up a 3/4 of an inch last time, so I'll bring it up another 3/4. Allegedly, you can have 1.5 inches of preload on these. If that doesn't work, then either change the wheels and tires, or we have to get stronger springs. I think these are 700-pound strings, so go to 800-pound or whatever. We'll talk to RideTech if it comes to that. All right, so like I did last time, I put a piece of tape at the bottom here so that I know where I'm starting from. So I'm going to go up 3/4 of an inch from there, and then this is the spanner wrench, and it's really doesn't really fit in here anyway nicely, but get that to lock on something and then use the wrench to spin it. Try. No, not that way, that way. This thing is a pain in the rear. That way. Need a longer extension. Hopefully it's not too long. And it is just the right size. Find something to latch on to. And ow. Oh, that does not want to turn.
Longer bar.
Wow.
A bar.
That is tight. That is tight. Need more leverage. I'll try and think about this for a minute.
A long pipe. Today and
Filming here. I'm filming here.
I'm sorry.
All right, so I was just looking at this. There's only about 3/4 of an inch of threads left. So we're gonna get what we get. I just put some WD-40 on this to hopefully help. So you have to basically spin this thing around each time. It's kind of a pain. Not to lock on to anything. Doing this with the camera in the way isn't easy either. That's basically it. All right, so we got 0.727. Let's go. That's all I could get. Probably. I might be able to crank a little bit more, but I'm exhausted. That took like, what, half an hour?
Yeah.
Half an hour of cranking on that thing? That is exhausting work. All right, so let's move over to the other side. All right, so we have both sides done. Did I take the flashlight out of here? Yeah, I guess I did. Hang on a second. And then this guy here, Neither fitting on either side of that was particularly loose, but I cranked them down a little bit, and hopefully that takes care of it. You can see I cleaned this with some brake clean, so a lot of leakage there. Hopefully that takes care of it. I'm not going to repaint it until we know if that fixed the leak or not, but it wasn't super loose. I mean, it was tight, so hopefully that fixes it. But as I was telling Pops, this is a high point in the brake system, so I don't think there's any capillary stuff feeding it down from somewhere else. Because the one on the other side there goes under the cross member, so that goes down, and then this one here is going down to the rotor, or to the caliper rather. So it's got to be leaking from right there. I can't think of where else it would be leaking from. So we're all done here. Put it back together. All right, so we got it. So that's quite a bit more room there now. Is that enough? I don't know. I still have the situation that this side is lower than the other side. It's like not quite half an inch, but it's a decent amount. Like here, it's like 2 fingers on this side. Yeah. Sit on it. No. So I don't know why that is. We have the same preload on both sides. Like Pop said, is this side of the car heavier? Well, maybe. There's nobody in it, so it's not a driver's side thing. So I don't know what that's all about. But hopefully that helps. The ride might be really, really lousy now with those springs totally loaded up like that. But we'll see. Again, we can't take it out for a drive right now to find out.
I only find an eighth of an inch difference.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you're a better measurer
That
than
could
me.
be the air in the tire too.
Could be. All right, so that's that. So now the fun part of the back. Ugh. All right, so we're under here. So we just measured it again. So yeah, it needs to go that way, 5/16 of an inch. Cannot find my angle finder anywhere, but we got the phone out and checked it. This said it's sitting at 90, which might be correct because the car is sitting up on an angle here. I remember this being 2.5 degrees up, and since the car is sitting up this way, maybe that is right. Anyway, so whoops. So here's the 2 links. So I'm going to pop these loose, see if I can move this over. There's not a lot of threads left on this bar here. It's just maybe 1/4 of an inch. And it's pretty coarse thread. So basically I'm going to spin one out and one in and see what that does. And I think maybe I can do that 2 or 3 times. That's it. There's not a lot I can play with there, so we'll start with that. Whew, that was fun. All right, so I think I ended up with the pinion angle the same. The phone thing said it was the same. Was it? I don't know. So what I ended up doing was taking the upper link here and turned it in 2 turns, and then took this one and turned it out 2 turns. It didn't do any weird cockeyedness or anything. The 2 links went right back in once I pulled the pinion angle up because it fell down when I took those out. So it all seemed fine. Measurement wise, we're measuring to the inside of the lip here, and I put a straight edge up in here, and they start rubbing right about here on both sides. So that seems pretty centered now. So there's a little bit of clearance in here now where there wasn't before. So that's good. Is that enough? I don't know. But then the other thing I noticed when I was under there is, as we said on the front, there's like no threads left for preload up there. There's tons back here, and the springs are way longer back here. So I got a lot more room to work with back there, I think. So should be okay. And the other option is, did I put the wrong springs on, like the rears and the fronts and stuff? That's another possibility. I don't think so, but we'll see. Yeah, so that's it. So we have quite a bit more clearance here in the front. We'll see if that's enough. Like I said, next step, we'll take the car, well, once we get the alternator sorted out, I'll take it into the shop and then have the guy there look at it and decide if we think some narrower tires will take care of the rest, or if we need to get some narrower wheels, we'll take it from there. But of course we'll be able to test drive it before then as well and see how it's behaving. That might be enough, we'll see. I'm beat. You good?
Yeah, me too. Just supervising today, tough.
Yeah, those coilovers are a nightmare to turn. Whew. All right, let's wrap it up there then.
Yeah.
All right, so the alternator is on its way to Tennessee. It'll be there on Wednesday. I have no idea what the turnaround time is going to be, so
Just keep an eye on it. I mean, I'm really lucky to have it back here by next Sunday, but we'll see.
I told everybody the car would be going to the Memorial Day party next weekend.
Is that next weekend?
Next weekend, and now I can't take it probably.
Can't borrow an alternator for the weekend?
Yeah, probably not. So that sucks. I told everybody the car would be there. All my friends.
Check on usedalternators.com. It's worth it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Whatever. All right. Have a good one, sir.
You too.
Garage lights on.
Okay.
What's going on, guys and gals? It's been a while since we filmed that last part of that video. I don't know, a month, something, I forget. My mom and dad have been having a few health problems, so I haven't been out in the garage much. They're doing okay, but yeah, it's kind of been messy for a while. But when we finished up this last video, I didn't upload it because it wasn't done. We showed what we did with the rear end and all that stuff. And right after I filmed that, I came down and thought, I wonder if that rear end moved. It's on a 4-link, so I didn't think it could really move, but I came out and measured it, and sure enough, it had gone that way just a little bit. I forget what the actual measurements now are, but the rear end on this side, I think, something like 1/4 of an inch it pivoted, maybe less, I don't remember. And I measured that from basically the edges of the wheel, the rim, to each side to measure the distance between those two, and it's slightly longer on this side. And I couldn't remember if it had been that way. I'm pretty sure they were even before. And I came out and put a straight edge on it and measured the lines and everything, and sure enough, the rear end's off by about 3 inches measured at the front tires, that angle there. So quite a bit. So that sucks. So we're gonna have to put that back. I don't really know what else to do about that. I thought that would work, but it didn't. Stand frame there, sorry. So, can't work on that right now because Pops is not here and I don't work under the car if he's not here. So we're going to skip that for right now. I'll go over one other thing I noticed, which we'll talk about here in a second. Then we're going to work on the alternator today. We touched on that on the last video. So after we did the test drive, I had to move the car out of the garage for some workers that were here. And I noticed when I pulled it back into the garage, the Dakota Digital alarm was going off. I couldn't figure out why, and I checked the dash, and the voltmeter was just pegged at 18 volts or something. I was like, what the heck is going on there? So I shut it off, shut it back on. I did it again, so I just quickly pulled the car into the garage and shut it off. I thought, that was weird. I don't know what that was all about. And then came back a few days later to try to start the car, and the battery was dead. And there shouldn't really be anything draining any battery on this car when it's turned off. Nothing I've had any problems with in the past, so that sucked. So I just assumed the alternator was bad. So I contacted Vintage Air. And for those who haven't followed along with the build, this engine has 20 minutes of runtime on it or something, and the alternator failed, I think. So I called Vintage Air. They said, yep, not our problem. Talk to Meckman. They make these things. So, and I bought this years ago, so it's out of warranty. So I talked to Meckman, and they said, yeah, I'll send it in for an RMA, and we'll figure it out. Let me show you one thing here. Alternator back. Tear this bag open real quick. So they said, when I talked to them, they said it was going to be, I don't even remember now, it was like $300 to repair it, to do a full rebuild, something like that. It's just under 300. And they said, or we can give you a brand new one for like $100 more. But they didn't have them in chrome. It's like I could get any color I want as long as it wasn't chrome. Because I guess that's a Vintage Air only thing, so I couldn't get it. So I sent it in to get rebuilt. It took a long time, took like 3 or 4 weeks to get it back. Finally got it back. So I haven't installed it yet, but here it is. But one of the things, when I talked to them about it, they said, Vintage Air does not suggest that you run a ground cable on these, and Meckman says you should. So even though the block is grounded with a big 4.0 cable or 4 gauge or something, it's a pretty big wire. They said run a ground, so I'm going to run a ground while I'm at it. But the other thing is they don't really make the single wire model anymore. So they only have the one with the pigtail now, which is interesting. So I suspect that had something to do with it, that old model they had, there was something bogus about it, which sucks. But anyway, so here's my brand new rebuilt alternator again. So we'll get this guy installed today. Hopefully that takes care of the problem. Let me talk about the other thing for a second. One thing I forgot to mention here, the lower links on this 4-link are not adjustable. If they were, I could tweak the angle of this thing a little bit. I may do that someday, because for now we're just going to put the rear end back the way it was. RideTech sells the Heim joints, I think. So I can convert these lower links to be adjustable. But I would need a better welder to weld those things on. My little Eastwood welder won't cut it for those things. So someday I might do that when I get a better welder, and then we can come back and revisit this. So the funny thing about this, when I started thinking about this, was since I had a single wire on here before, and now I have an alternator with an exciter wire, I was like, great, now I have to go find some place to get that exciter wire from, because all the wiring's done under here. So I started just peeling back the loom that I put around the power cable there. Oh, look at that. I left it in there. I don't even remember doing this. This is how long ago I did this stuff. So I had the exciter wire there, and I just tucked it up inside there thinking someday somebody might need this if they have to replace this alternator, and there we go. So I've got to double check that and make sure that's the exciter wire, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. So I'm all good to go there. So all I need to do is get a ground wire. I don't know how well this will come out in the dark here. Probably not very. Let me get a flashlight. So you can see right there, got a good sized ground wire going straight to the battery post over here. Like battery post in quotes, right? Because the battery's in the trunk. But you can see that's, where are you? There, right? That's the ground post right there. So I think I've already got that covered, but they said they wanted another ground, so we'll do that. So I've got to fabricate a cable to go from there, figure out what to do with that, and get that attached to the battery post. And then everything else is just plug and play, basically connect that exciter wire and good to go. All right, so on one end of the cable, I've got I think I'll be able to slip one over one of these attachment bolts for the alternator. So that is a, I don't know what that is, 5/16 or something. This little guy. Focus. And on the other side is a 3/8, just to go over the battery post. Can't find any of my utility knives here. Sucks. I'm just gonna cut this back here. Like that. Okay. This is 4-gauge cable. Got a little ahead of myself there. Now it's gonna fight me. Try and film this without a helper. Stay put. that's basically the idea. Yeah, one single crimp just doesn't seem to be enough with this thing. Gotta get two. It's hard to do with one hand. There we go. Okay, I did put the heat shrink on there if you didn't notice. There. Okay, so that's that. Let me heat up the, or shrink the heat shrink. And this thing's ready to go. Okay, now we just have to connect the exciter wire. All right, well, it turns out that is not the wire that I need. This is the alternator battery sample wire. Now I need to see if I have the alternator exciter wire or not, if I get rid of that. So let me dig around for a while. Well, even better, which is why I love this LS kit so much. Look at that. Totally forgot that guy was even there. So it was done, ready to go. All I have to do is connect it. All right, so easy peasy. I'll stick that red wire back up in there. I have no use for that. Get that ground wire connected and we're good to go. Try and stay out of the way of the camera shot here. Tuck that back up in there. Tuck this inside. So, cut this wire tie here to bring that over. Let's bring this guy in here. Let's see, grab a bolt. So I think I'm going to connect the ground wire at the top here if I can. To hold it in place. That's where we're going. That's where we're going with the ground wire, if that works. I think that's correct. Well, this bottom one goes into the, does it go into the block? I don't know if it goes into the block, but I'll put some, I had some anti-seize on here. I'll put some, focus. Why won't you focus? There, put some more anti-seize on here to make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Like I said, hopefully I'm staying out of your way here. Let me smooth that a little bit. My lights are flickering in here today. What's up with that? appropriate socket for that. That is a 10 millimeter. Oops. That one's not. They're different. Interesting. That's a 10. The bottom one's not. Okay. 11 millimeter. Loose for now. Okay. There's our ground wire. Poking up like that or poking down? Down. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing here. I'll just assume you can, but you probably can't. Get what I used to do this before. Kind of tight in here. Let me find something to get on there better. See if that helps. Not really. I don't remember that being so much trouble getting that off, but I guess it was. Okay, see if I have a 10 millimeter wrench. All right, I'll show you where all that ended up. So here's the new generator, pigtail. Ran that up under here, tucked that stuff in here, the ground wire coming off the back of this guy down here, and I tucked it up under this harness going around the back. And then come over here, comes around the back there, and then added it to all those wires down there. Truth be told, it ended up being a little long, so I had to cut it. That's okay. Yeah, so that should all be wrapped up there. So let me get the belt back on, and then this little cover over the tensioner, and it's all set up here. All right, moment of truth. but it is running. All right, we'll call that victory. All right, well, that's a wrap for today. We got that sorted out. Hopefully that stays sorted out. And we can get back to this pretty soon, get it back on the road and start working out the kinks. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. See you on the next time.